I want you to close your eyes for a moment. When I whisper the word Stoic, what image flashes across the cinema screen of your mind? You probably see a man in rags. You see a starving monk living in a cave, eating stale bread and drinking rainwater. You see someone like Epictetus, the crippled slave who owned nothing but his own thoughts. You see a philosophy that rejects the world, a philosophy that tells you to hate money, to despise luxury, and to find nobility in suffering. Now, open your eyes. Everything you think you know about the Stoic lifestyle is only half the story. I want to introduce you to the man who shatters every stereotype we have about this philosophy. His name was Lucius Annius Seneca, and he was not living in a cave. By the standards of the Roman Empire, and even by the standards of modern Wall Street, Seneca was not just comfortable, he was obscenely, unfathomably rich. Historians estimate his net worth was over 300 million denarii. To put that in perspective, in today's terms, Seneca wasn't just a millionaire, he was a billionaire. He was the Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos of Rome. He was the empire's investment banker. He owned vast country estates that stretched for miles. He owned hundreds of slaves, and he had vineyards that produced the finest wines in the Mediterranean. He lent money to kings and influenced the economy of the entire known world. And yet, this is the same man who wrote the most profound, stinging essays on simplicity, on the dangers of greed, and on the virtue of poverty. This creates a massive, uncomfortable contradiction, doesn't it? It drove his enemies absolutely crazy. They called him a hypocrite. They whispered in the emperor's ear, "How can this man lecture us on virtue and self-control while he sleeps on a bed frame made of solid gold? How can he preach about the simple life while dining on oysters flown in from the coast?" It is a question that haunts us today, especially in our modern culture. We are torn. We are conflicted. We want the financial freedom. We want the FU money. We want to secure our future and protect our families. But deep down, we are terrified that chasing money will turn us into something we hate. We are afraid that to get the gold, we have to sell the soul. We worry that we can't be spiritual and rich at the same time. But what if I told you that Seneca wasn't a hypocrite? What if I told you that he had cracked a psychological code that 99% of modern people miss? Seneca didn't reject wealth. He mastered it. He understood a secret psychology of money that turns currency from a master into a servant. He knew how to have everything, yet need nothing. He knew how to walk through a palace without letting the luxury infect his mind. Today, on Stoic Focus, we are not talking about penny pinching. We are not talking about giving away your possessions and living in a van. We are breaking down Seneca's protocol of wealth. We are going to learn how to build an empire without becoming a slave to it. If you are tired of the hustle culture that demands you sacrifice your life for a paycheck, and you are ready for a smarter, stronger way to view your finances, do this for me. Tap the like button right now. It is a small signal to the algorithm, but a massive signal to yourself that you are ready to master your own fate. And if you're new here, subscribe. We are building a legion of minds that cannot be bought. Are you ready to learn how to be rich and free? Let's look at the books. To understand how a man like Seneca could live in a palace while preaching about simplicity, we have to perform emergency surgery on your belief system. We need to cut out a cancerous idea that is likely rotting in your subconscious right now. It is a belief planted by decades of bad conditioning from movies, from school, perhaps even from religion. It is the insidious idea that money is inherently dirty. We internalize the belief that to be a good person, we must reject the material world. We think we face a binary choice. You can either be a saint or you can be a shark. But Seneca looks at this guilt you are carrying and he says, nonsense. To free yourself from this guilt, we have to walk into the engine room of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics were obsessed with sorting the world into categories. And in their system, everything you will ever encounter falls into one of three specific buckets. Bucket number 1 is the good. This is the VIP section. The only things that go in here are things under your complete control: wisdom, justice, courage, and discipline. If you have these, you're happy. If you lack them, you're miserable, no matter how many zeros are in your bank account. Bucket number 2 is the bad. Ignorance, cowardice, injustice. These are the things that destroy the soul. And then there is bucket number 3. This is the bucket that contains everything else: health, sickness, fame, obscurity, and yes, money. The Stoics called this massive bucket the Indifferents. Now, pay close attention. This is where 99% of people get Stoicism wrong. They think indifferent means apathy. They think you should treat a pile of gold and a pile of dirt exactly the same. If that were true, Stoicism would be a philosophy for robots, not humans. So, the Stoics took that giant bucket of indifference and split it right down the middle. On one side, you have the dispreferred indifference like poverty, pain, and sickness. A wise man endures them if he has to, but he does not choose them. On the other side, you have the preferred indifference. This is where wealth lives. Seneca argues that while money doesn't make you a better person morally, it absolutely adds to your functional value. Think of your life as a ship crossing a dangerous ocean. Your goal is to reach the other side with your character intact. Can you cross the ocean in a storm, rowing against the current, starving and cold? Yes. And if that is your fate, the Stoic accepts it. He rows. He endures. But what if the wind suddenly shifts? What if a strong, warm tailwind starts blowing in the direction you want to go? What kind of captain would you be if you screamed, "No, I reject this wind, I want to suffer"? You would be a fool. A wise captain raises the sails. He catches the wind. He uses that energy to propel his ship forward. Money is that tailwind. Seneca is telling us to stop apologizing for wanting the wind. Wealth is preferred because it gives you agency. It is very hard to practice generosity if you have nothing to give. It is hard to focus on philosophy if you are working 16 hours a day in a mine just to survive. Seneca wrote that there is greater opportunity for virtuous action in riches than in poverty. When you are rich, you have a wider field of play. You can build schools. You can save a friend from bankruptcy. You can take care of your aging parents. Poverty clips your wings. Wealth allows you to spread them. So, you need to make a psychological shift right now. Move from guilt to utility. Stop looking at money as a status symbol that proves you are better than others. But also, stop looking at it as a temptation that proves you are worse. Start looking at money as fuel. If you want to drive across the country, you need gas. You don't worship the gas. You don't bathe in the gas, but you put it in the tank because you want to go somewhere. Seneca's fortune was his fuel. It allowed him to write, to influence the empire, and to leave a legacy. Here is your new rule. Pursue wealth with excellence, but possess it with detachment. You are allowed to be ambitious. You are allowed to build an empire, but you must never make the mistake of thinking that these things are you. The moment you think I need this money to be happy. You have lost. You have traded a diamond for a piece of glass. The wind is blowing. Raise your sails, but never forget who is steering the ship. Now, let's assume you have raised those sails. The wind of fortune is blowing, and the numbers in your bank account are climbing. You are building your empire. Congratulations. You have just entered the most dangerous phase of your life. This is the zone where most successful people lose their souls. Not because they become evil, but because they unknowingly sign a contract that turns them into prisoners. Seneca saw this happen in Rome every day. He saw men work their entire lives to gain power, only to be too terrified to sleep at night for fear of losing it. From this observation, he gave us a quote that you should memorize. Wealth is the slave of a wise man, the master of a fool. It is not about how much you have. It is about who is in charge. To know if you are the master or the slave, look at your anxiety levels. The fool believes money cures anxiety. He thinks, if I hit $1 million, I'll be safe. But when he hits the million, he isn't relaxed. He is twice as stressed because now he has something to lose. He is standing on a ledge, terrified of falling. The fool buys a luxury car to feel powerful, but immediately becomes its servant, worrying about scratches and parking spots. He buys the mansion to impress friends, but puts on golden handcuffs because now he can't quit the job he hates. He becomes the janitor of his own lifestyle. The slave is defined by attachment. He glues his identity to his net worth. If the market drops, he feels like a failure. Now, look at the master. Look at how Seneca lived. He had the palace, the vineyards, the banquets, but he moved through it all with a cool indifference. He treated his wealth like a rental car. You enjoy the rental car. You drive it fast. You appreciate the comfort. But you know, deep down, it is not yours. You know the contract will end. And when it does, you don't cry. You hand the keys back and walk away. Seneca wrote that we must view our possessions as things we have lent to ourselves, ready to return when the lender recalls them. The ultimate test of this came when Emperor Nero turned on him. Nero, paranoid and jealous, wanted Seneca's fortune. Most men would have panicked, bribed, or fled. Seneca did none of those things. He walked into the palace and simply said, "Take it." He offered to hand over his entire fortune to retire to a small farm. He wasn't bluffing. He genuinely didn't care. He was ready to walk out a poor man with a smile on his face. Why? Because his inner citadel, his peace and character was stored in his mind, not his vault. This is the true meaning of FU money. In modern culture, we think FU money is a specific number in the bank. Seneca disagrees. He says it is a state of mind. You could have $10 million, but if your lifestyle costs $10 million and your ego needs the status, you are a slave. You can't walk away. Conversely, if you have $50,000, but your needs are low and you are unafraid of poverty, you are invincible. So, audit your life. Look at your house, your car, your portfolio. Say to yourself, "These are things fortune has lent me for now." It sounds depressing, but it is actually liberating. When you stop fearing loss, you can finally enjoy what you have. You stop clutching the bird so tightly that you crush it. You open your hand. If the bird stays, beautiful. If it flies away, you are still standing. We have established that money is a tool, and we know how to hold it without being crushed by it. But we still have to answer the practical question: how do you get it? There is a cynical whisper in the modern world that says to truly make it, you have to get your hands dirty. We see the scammers, the sharks, and the corrupt corporations, and we think, maybe I have to choose between being a poor saint or a rich monster. Seneca looks at this dilemma and laughs. He tells us that dirty money is not a shortcut. It is a trap. He wrote a rule that should be etched above every business door. We should not become wealthy through injustice. He believed that money carries the energy of its origin. If you acquire a coin by providing value by building a house, solving a problem, or creating art, that coin is clean. When you hold it, you feel pride. When you spend it, you feel security. But if you acquire a coin through deception, by exploiting people or selling lies, that coin is tainted. You are trading a diamond, your integrity for a pebble. You might say, but Seneca, the pebble buys a Ferrari. Yes, it does. But the Ferrari comes with a passenger paranoia. This is the hidden cost of dirty money. I call it the sleep tax. Seneca observed the corrupt courtiers of Rome. They were filthy rich, but they never slept. They were constantly looking over their shoulders, terrified of rumors, terrified of the truth coming out. When you make money unethically, you create a web of lies you have to maintain forever. Your brain never shuts off. If you are paying a 90% tax in anxiety, are you actually rich, or are you just a prisoner with expensive wallpaper? The clean businessman sleeps like a baby. His books are open. His customers respect him. He might make money slower, but he is building on concrete, not quicksand. So, how do you ensure your money is clean? Ask yourself, is my success a positive-sum game? A zero-sum game is like poker. For me to win, you have to lose. Theft, fraud, and exploitation are zero-sum. The Stoics despise this. But a positive-sum game is like building a house. I make a profit, and you get a home. We are both better off. Seneca encourages us to be aggressive in positive-sum games. If you solve $1 billion problem for society, you deserve $1 billion reward. There is no guilt in that. The trap usually isn't greed, it's fear. Good people get golden handcuffs. They inflate their lifestyle too fast, and suddenly they need the cash flow to survive. That is when they compromise. That is when they cut corners. This is why Seneca preached simplicity. If your needs are low, no one can buy you. F you money is also F you integrity. It is the power to walk away from a dirty deal because you don't need the bonus. Finally, apply the glass house test. Imagine tomorrow, the newspapers publish exactly how you made every dollar you own. They show your emails, your sales scripts, everything. Would you be proud? Or would you be ashamed? If the thought of transparency makes you sweat, your money is dirty. Clean it up. In the age of the internet, the walls are made of glass anyway. Reputation takes 20 years to build and 5 minutes to destroy. It is better to starve in honor than to feast in shame. But the goal of the Stoic is to feast in honor. Now, we arrive at the final frontier. The secret weapon of the Stoic millionaire. This is the part that sounds absolutely insane to the modern era, but it is the key to unlocking true fearlessness. We live in a culture addicted to comfort. We treat hunger and cold as if they were life-threatening diseases. And because we are addicted to comfort, we are terrified of losing it. This fear is the chain that binds us. It keeps you in the job you hate and stops you from taking the risks that could change your life. Seneca knew that the fear of poverty is actually far worse than poverty itself. So, he prescribed a radical cure. He didn't suggest positive thinking. He suggested a physical simulation. He told his friend Lucilius to set aside a few days every month to voluntarily live like a beggar, to eat the cheapest food, wear the roughest clothes, and sleep on the floor. Why would a rich man do this? He is doing it to inoculate himself against fear. Think of it like a vaccine. The poverty practice introduces a small, controlled amount of hardship into your life, so your psychological immune system learns that it isn't fatal. Here is how you can do this. Take the 3-day Stoic challenge. For 3 days, strip away the luxury. First, the food. No restaurants. No expensive lattes. Eat plain oatmeal, rice, and beans. Drink tap water. Allow yourself to feel a little hungry. Second, the clothes. Put away the designer brands. Wear your oldest, simplest t-shirt. Walk down the street and realize that your value as a human didn't disappear just because you aren't wearing a logo. Third, the comfort. Sleep on the floor with a blanket. Turn off the air conditioning. Disconnect the Wi-Fi. On day 1, you will be annoyed. But by day 3, a profound shift will happen. You will wake up on the hard floor, eat your plain rice, and realize, wait a minute, I am still here. I am still breathing. I can still think. I can still laugh. You will realize that the worst-case scenario, the thing you have been running from your entire life, is not that bad. It is survivable. This realization makes you invincible. Most people play defense in life because they are terrified of going to zero. But you have been to zero. You visited it last weekend. You know it didn't kill you. So now you can play offense. You can push for the deal. You can start the business. You can take the risk. You become the man who cannot be threatened if the economy crashes. Fine, I know how to be poor. If I lose my job, fine. I survive on little. True wealth is not having a lot of money. True wealth is having zero fear of poverty. When you remove the fear of the downside, the upside becomes limitless. Seneca practiced this until the very end. When the order came from the emperor to commit suicide, he didn't panic. He treated death just like he treated poverty as another indifferent. He was ready. So, don't just nod your head. Do the work. Reset your baseline. You will return to your normal life with a suit of armor that no market crash can dent. And this brings us to the final truth. We chase numbers, but Seneca reminds us that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. The ultimate goal is self-sufficiency. It is building an inner citadel so strong that the market can panic, but you remain standing. Go out there. Be ambitious. Build your business. Use the gold to free your soul, not to sell it. If you are ready to stop serving the coin and start commanding it, leave a mark. Comment the word master below. Let yourself know that you are in charge. Stay rich. Stay free.